Alright guys, Watchman's Post coming to you again. There's been a lot of stuff going on since the last time I made a video. If you're not following me on Twitter, go ahead and set you up an account. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, just so you can follow along with Twitter. I make these videos every once in a while, just from time to time, to try to put information out there that people might not be getting otherwise. But come follow me on Twitter and keep up with me on a daily basis. Even when I'm not making videos, you can keep up with what's going on with these topics, and then you can follow these sources for yourself and get this information for yourself and catch stuff I'm missing and send it to me. But there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm gonna just scroll through the feed and start talking about some of this. Maybe I'll open some of these links and read a few of these things. But this is from the Times of Israel, saying that Hamas threatens revenge for an airstrike said to kill a fighter. And for anybody who hasn't been keeping up with it, there's been a lot of conflict and back and forth going on with Gaza, which is Hamas and the terrorist organization Hamas in the Gaza Strip. In the past 3 or 4 days, it's been really intense. And just today they're saying they let off one of those balloons or rockets or something. They've got these little, for those who don't know, they got little balloons. They're seriously out there tying like little bottles of gas or something up to a balloon, lighting the balloon, sending it over fence, and lighting fields on fire and trying to cause as much trouble as they can across the fence in Israel. And Israel said they're not going to put up with it, and every time that one of these little terrorist kites or balloons or whatever they do comes across, they're going to retaliate, and they lit another one or something and they hit them, and one of the guys dies, who's trying to do a terrorist attack, and they're vowing revenge. They're saying that they're going to get Israel back. So anybody who's been following that, they said that they were trying to negotiate a peace deal, or not like a overall peace deal, but like a momentary arrangement just to stall any activity going. Not an overall peace deal. Don't get me confused. Excuse me. And just to stop the back and forth activity that's been going on. And these little guys out there doing this stuff won't let them stop long enough to make a stalemate. So that's just happened, and you can see right here it says 21 minutes ago. Just came across. And I'm gonna be bouncing around different topics, but you can come to my page, click on any of these links, open it up, and get more information on any one of these topics. And overall, these are the things that are important to me, that I find important to prophecy and international tensions around the world right now. So each one of these stories you can follow all by itself, or like I said, click on it, get more information on it. But they're all relevant to international tensions, war with Iran. This is about Iran and Israel. World War III, and the coming tribulation. We're on the verge of God's judgment being poured out upon the entire earth. There's not going to be any nation that he's not going to pour judgment upon. What's this one say? Iranian official, we hold the possession of 950 tons of uranium. They just recently turned on another uranium facility, and they're sitting back claiming that they've got 950 tons of uranium right now. They're mad about America getting out of the nuclear deal that we had with them, and they're saying that if things don't fix, they're going to turn on the uranium facilities again and make more uranium. And they're already claiming they got 950 tons right now. So with that much uranium, what do you need a factory for? Let's keep rolling. Business Insider. Marines in Eastern Europe are practicing a little used tactic, another sign that they're getting ready for a big fight. And I won't even use the language they're trying to use there, but I haven't even read this. It is saying Romania and Bulgaria And what are they talking about? They're talking about I won't even open a map for you, but they're talking about Russia having conflicts on the edge of Europe and a coming war with Russia, and that Eastern Europe, the Marines in Eastern Europe are getting ready for a war. This is just another article, another snapshot of tensions with Russia. I haven't even read that yet. I'm sure it's great. There's plenty of other articles in here about Russia. We'll see which ones I actually open up and read for you. Just scrolling through the headlines, and like I said, you can come to my Twitter feed, follow me, see all of these, follow Business Insider for yourself, and then tell your friends about what's going on. Whatever topic you find interesting, I cover all these things and keep up with all these things. You might be only interested in Russia because you think it's Magog, or because you think it's the bear in Daniel's dream. I'm interested in all these international conflicts, and I'm keeping up with all of them. So I'm gonna bounce around and show you something that might spark your interest, that you need to be watching for, that you might find interested in and share with somebody else. And this is just one snapshot of what's going on with Russia. What's this talking about? Reuters, one of the biggest news agencies in the world. Russia and China delay U.S. push for a halt to redefine or refined petroleum to North Korea. So recently, America's come out. My son's running around, and we've blasted Russia and China for violating sanctions with North Korea. We've got sanctions on North Korea to try to put pressure on North Korea so that they'll bend and be willing to, make deals with denuclearization with us. And the sanctions are no good because Russia and China are continuing to break the sanctions. So now we're blasting Russia and China and accusing them of sanctions violations with North Korea. And we're talking about putting more sanctions on Russia and China. So they've had like a limit of how much oil goes to North Korea. This is important. This is showing what? This is showing the alliance of Russia and China, how strong their alliance is with North Korea. And if something broke off with North Korea, it's showing you that Russia and China is probably going to be in the mix, and you're going to have a World War III conflict going on. And but so they had a limit on how much oil could be exchanged with North Korea. They've found Russia and China guilty of sanctions violations, and now they want to cut off all oil going to North Korea, which is really big. And Russia and China saying, hold up, let's not do that yet. And probably because if you cut every last drop of oil going off to North Korea, that's going to push it over the edge. That's going to be the straw that broke the camel's back, and that's going to escalate things into a conflict. And they don't want to do that. I mean, they're violating the sanctions. So that's intense. That's something you need to read up on. It's not just about a little bit of oil deal. This is about international conflicts, and it tells a lot about what's going on. So come find that one, click the link, open up the article, read it for yourself. Let's keep scrolling. I added a new update to my map. I make a little GIF. I take a screenshot of the Syrian offensive that's going on. And it's almost over, it seems like. That's going on close to the Israeli Golan Heights. And I added another screenshot today and another scene into a GIF that I made, and I call it a map update. And just today, for whatever reason, it doesn't play well on this Microsoft browser or whatever. But here I'll open it up and show you scene by scene here. Let's see. This was the beginning of their offensive, and there was a lot of ground still to take. All this green is the rebels, and Syria wanted to clean up these rebels and take back this land for Syria. And over time, they took more and more, gained a lot of ground. And this was their advancement today. Why is this important? Why should you care about Syria taking this ground back? Well, for one, Iran is running the ground forces in this operation. Russia's flying over and they're bombing, and then Iran's got Hezbollah out there and they're running the ground game, and they're the soldiers on the ground. So what does that mean? That means every time they get a little bit closer to Israel, Iran has that much is that much closer to Israel. And if they want to attack Israel like they continue to say they are, they've said that they're out there on the Golan Heights and they're just waiting orders to destroy Israel. Now they're that much closer to Israel. And, the further they are away from Israel, the longer the missile or the drone or whatever they're trying to attack has to go before it gets into Israel's airspace. And that gives them a longer chance to strike it down and defend themselves. But if they're moving right there on the border with Israel, then there's almost zero time for a missile to get over there and them to defend people. There's people living right here in this area, homes and children and families, and if they moved missile launchers over in here and launched from this distance, only a few miles, there's no way they're going to be able to intercept that. Very unlikely. So they want to move in and cause more damage. They want to destroy Israel. This is Iran getting closer to Israel. So it's very important, something I'm watching for. Even if they're able to get all this territory without a conflict with Israel, it's still a loss, and it's very concerning because now Israel's that much closer to Iran and a conflict. So it's a very bad deal. And remember, this is how close Damascus is. So at any point they could easily send a few jets up and drop a few missiles and level Damascus. Isaiah 17. Iran moving in on the Golan Heights is Ezekiel 38. I suggest you read that if you hadn't read that. Just one little page. And Ezekiel 39 is good too. If you get interested, read on to the next page. Let's keep rolling here. Let's see what else we got going on. Russia and China urge delay as U.S. seeks to cut off oil to North Korea. So this is another news agency, not just one, but just today this stuff is starting to break. This is a breaking story for today, and everybody in the world, Israel, Reuters, all over the world, they're talking about this because they know it's important. They want to cut off all oil going to North Korea, and Russia and China's fighting to stop that. They don't want that to happen. I suggest you open that up, find one of these stories about that and read up on that. It's very important. I believe North Korea will be the spark that starts World War III. Tensions and talks, everything's getting worse and worse with North Korea every day, day by day. This one's talking about Russia's got all those super hypersonic weapons that nobody can stop. They admit that they've made these hypersonic weapons, and you can see underneath this Russian aircraft here, they got what they call a dagger, and it's a hypersonic missile that they can launch from that jet. And it goes supersonic, hypersonic, or whatever, and there's no defense in the world that can stop it. And they've got ICBMs and torpedoes. There's an ICBM. I don't know if that's a torpedo or what. Like I said, I'm no expert, but this whole article, this guy Hans, and he's from Germany, and I suggest you follow him. And he's a director of Nuclear Information Project, Federation of American Scientists. So he's a nuclear expert. He's verified. He's got his check right there. And he's concerned about the weapons that Russia's got, the supersonic nuclear weapons that nobody can defend against. Maybe you should be concerned about that too. But check that stuff out for yourself. Look up Russia's hypersonic missiles and read up on that. What's this about? This isn't out of America, left or right politics. This is out of Asia, probably out of China. Channel News Asia, and you can see they got the check. That means they're verified. Twitter's verified them as a legitimate source every time you see one of those checks. And it says Putin warns NATO against closer ties with Ukraine and Georgia. So they just had a meeting, Trump and Putin, just the other day about Russian tensions and international tensions. And now a few days later, Putin's coming out and he's talking junk. And that's unheard of for Putin. I've vaguely kept up with some of the things that Putin said for a long time, and he's tried to play peacemaker and downplay things and warn of tensions to try to make things better. But this one I'm gonna open up. I'm gonna read a little bit of it, and you see what he says for yourself. Don't take Dub Post's opinion for it. Let's see what he says. Putin warns NATO against closer ties with Ukraine and Georgia. And just in case anybody doesn't know where that's at, I'm gonna open up the live map here so we can visually see where is Ukraine and Georgia for anybody who doesn't already know. Here's Israel, Syria, and all that I've made stuff about before. I constantly keep up with that. Up above Turkey, go up a little more. Look over here. Here's Georgia. Uh-oh, they're lit up in red. Why is that? Probably because there's tensions going on. This is a whole nother conflict. Here's Crimea. Here's Ukraine. Let me back out a little bit. Matter of fact, see, there's a whole nother. I'm following this one with the Middle East, but let's hit this the Ukraine one. See if that won't change things up. All right. Uh-oh. Gonna hit me with some ads. Check this out, folks. All right, now we're in Ukraine. Now we're looking at the live map for Ukraine. This is the Crimea. This is Ukraine right here. Here's Georgia. Well, what else did he say? Ukraine and Georgia. So he's concerned about, Putin's come out and made statements about Georgia and Ukraine. Check out all that. What's that? Just yesterday, they've opened up fire 17 times, and I got that on my Twitter. We'll check that out in a minute. But I just want to show you on the map and give you a perspective of what's going on. For anybody who doesn't know what's going on in Ukraine, I suggest you do a quick search on that. It's been going on for a while. Ukraine had a situation, and a lot of these guys on this side of Ukraine are Russian-speaking, Russian-leaning people, and they had a dispute inside their country, and they wanted Russia to come in, and they did, and Russia came in and taken part of Ukraine and Crimea. And they've got lots of influence in these regions, and I'm not even going to pretend to know all the details. And I'm not an expert in this subject, but Russia's already moved in this area right here, and they're showing activity with the Russians right there. They're already on the move. Some people have said for years that World War III has already started because Russia's already moving in on Ukraine and has activity going. I think the main reason, from my vague understanding as to why it's not, a hot war or anything, is because technically this side of Ukraine asked Russia to come in. They came in because they were asked to. So some say it's an invasion, but they kind of let it slide because they were asked to come in. But look up what's going on with that Ukrainian crisis and or situation there. Like I said, there's tons of. Let's zoom in on that. Let's see. Tons of activity just within the past few days. I'm guessing that's shelling all along the border of. They call this Donbass, I believe. Like I said, I'm no expert in this. It's not really been an active thing on a regular basis. Whereas the stuff in Syria and everything's been really active. So I've kept up with Syria more. And this happened and it sat stale for a while, but it's picking back up again. But anyways, let's go back to see what Putin's got to say about it, right? Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday warned NATO against cultivating closer ties with Ukraine and Georgia, saying such a policy was irresponsible and would have unspecified consequences for the alliance. So what you saying, Pooty Poot? He's saying you come in here and you getting too close to my border. You start making friends and influence in regions that border me, and it's gonna anger me. We're gonna have disagreements on it. Let's read a little bit more. I don't think this is very long. Scroll through it real fast, real short. I don't even know if I'll read it off to you. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday warned NATO against cultivating closer ties with Ukraine and Georgia, saying such a policy was irresponsible and would have unspecified consequences for the alliance. The issue has been a source of anger for Russia, which shares a border with both countries and does not want to see them join what it regards as a hostile military bloc. Since 2008, when NATO leaders promised Ukraine and Georgia they would one day join the alliance. So this is a hot issue when it comes to Russia. And they're getting upset about it, and he's coming out making statements about it. Putin, speaking to Russian diplomats from around the world assembled in Moscow, said on Thursday there was a need to restore trust in Europe, and spoke out against what he said was NATO's attempts to deploy new bases and military infrastructure near Russia's borders. We will respond appropriately to such aggressive steps which pose a direct threat to Russia. He says this is a direct threat to him, and he will do something about it. You moving in on Ukraine, you moving in on Georgia. He's saying you moving in on my border, and I'm going to do something about it. Big bear, big Russia up here. I won't zoom out any further than that because it's just focusing in on Ukraine there. But and this is just a breaking story. Just today's the 20th. Well, today's the 19th. I guess they're in China, so they're a day ahead. But this is just breaking, man. This will be the talk now. He's coming out talking trash right after having a meeting with Trump. So our colleagues who are trying to aggravate the situation, seeking to include, among others, Ukraine and Georgia in the orbit of the alliance, should think about the possible consequences of such an irresponsible policy. I mean, he's talking trash. The Russian leader said he had disclosed the matter with the U.S. President Donald Trump at the summit. Trump has called for NATO members to spend more on defense, but it was worried about Montenegro, the alliance's newest member. And I'm not going to read through the rest of it. They do a lot of backstory and filler on it to try to show you an overall perspective. If you want the history, look it up. But main point on that story is Russia's coming out and they're mad about us moving in on this Ukraine area, this Georgia area. This is Russia, and they said we don't like you on our border, and if you keep trying to put these boys in your alliance on our border, it's going to cause problems. That's World War III. That's the big bear, whether you think it's Magog or not. It's Daniel's bear. Every main scholar, Christian scholar out there says it's Daniel's bear. Tensions with Russia are serious. They're getting worse on a regular basis. And this is just another example of it. Big example. Next topic. Debka file. If you're on Twitter, if you ain't, get on Twitter and follow this stuff for yourself. Read these articles. It ain't about me getting more followers. It's about you getting this information and about the coming tribulation and the wrath and World War III that's about to happen and getting that message out to other people. So get on here and find this for yourself and click this article. Bang. Open up the article and go read it for yourself. See what they got to say. I haven't even read this one. But Debka Files puts out great information. Now, they're not verified, but man, their stuff should be verified. You check it out for yourself and see what you think about it. Make up your own opinion. Quneitra, right here, this is, I guess, the Quneitra city. It's within that buffer zone that Israel said they're going to withhold. And then they're saying overall there's a greater Quneitra countryside. Falls to the Syrian army. And that goes back to that GIF I've made and kept up with it. This is the Golan Heights, Israel. And they said because of the 1974 buffer zone, this buffer zone, 1974-73 buffer zone, because of that agreement, now that Syria's moved up on this buffer zone, they've got the right to fly these drones and whatever aircraft over into the buffer zone and surveil the area now. So what does that mean? Bad news. That means if they got it out for Israel and they've got access to the air rights in this area, now you're not going to be able to stop them if they want to attack. They're going to be flying over and just saying, "Oh, we've got rights to the air in this area." If they want to hit them, there's not going to be any time to defend against anything. Now you won't be able to shoot their drones down if they're flying in the area. According to this, let's read it and see what they say. Like I said, I haven't even read this, but it's keeping up with everything that I've been watching. It's not a long one, and none of them seem to be really. Syrian rebel resistance to the Syrian army advance on Quneitra opposite Israeli Golan crumbled on Thursday, the 19th, in an absence of Israeli military support. So the rebels were on their own out there. The terms of surrender that rebel leaders signed with Syrian army officers obliged them to hand over all their strongholds, including the town of Quneitra. So the actual town is there in the buffer zone. Wow. The Syrian army was able to return to the positions held before 2011 uprising without a shot. Rebels, so they just folded. They weren't going to get any support. They seen the Syrians coming and they surrendered. They just gave it to them. And that's happened a lot recently, and that's why they were able to take so much land so quickly. Israeli officials and military leaders were dismayed by a message received from Damascus claiming that the 1974 Separation of Forces Accord, which is what? That buffer zone right here. What about it? And its endorsement on July 16th at Helsinki by President Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin revealed that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu partained the Helsinki deal for the restoration of the southern Syria to the Syrian army under Russian oversight. So basically they agreed to let Russia oversee Syria taking back the land. They agreed to it. They let them have it. Israeli officers were handed the Syrian message on Thursday. According to DEPCA military sources, the Syrian message for the first time forbids the Israeli Air Force and anti-air missile batteries shooting down Syrian aerial vehicles entering the airspace over the buffer zones. So there it is. That was the gist of the meat of this thing, and that's exactly what they're talking about. What are they saying? According to the new agreements, Syria can fly their drones all in this buffer zone, and Israel can't shoot them down. That's the new arrangement. The second drone that they shot down just the other day flew into this buffer zone. They shot it down with a Patriot missile, and now the agreement is they can fly their drones all into the buffer zone all they want, and Israel can't shoot them down. So there goes the safety. There goes Iran next time might be flying the Syrian drone in the buffer zone, launch a few missiles in there. They can't shoot it down. They can't keep the drones out of the airspace now, and they might launch an attack, and there goes any chance of defending it. Bad deal. But God said that Iran is going to come against the mountains of Israel, and that's what's happening. Iran's moving in under the Syrian flag. The Iranian Hezbollah forces have changed uniform, and they're the ones that's moving that offensive closer and closer. And now they've got access to the buffer zone, to fly in the buffer zone and attack Israel at will. Anytime, like they said, they're ready to destroy Israel as soon as their big shots give the orders. So God's prophecies unfolding. There they are. Mount Hermon's right there, the mountains of God, the mountains of Israel. Ezekiel 38, he said that Iran would come against the mountains of Israel. Iran's moved their forces up against Mount Hermon, and they're right now, and now they're saying they've got access to fly in the buffer zone. There it is. It's not a complete fulfillment of the prophecy yet, but man, there it is. There it is. Let's move on to something else. If you've watched some of my past videos, I've talked about this guy, Jonathan Chang. He's probably one of the best experts that I follow on North Korea. And it's nothing, it's all he covers, nothing else but North Korea stuff. And KCNA is the news network out of North Korea. So whenever they say something, they're speaking for Kim Jong-un and his entire North Korean regime. I believe he interprets and changes the language up into English. Either way, he puts out the probably more KCNA North Korea news information than anybody else I've ever seen. And it says North Korea is saying what? The DPRK, which also stands for the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, which is North Korea, and Russia are neighbors sharing the same border, which, if you don't already know, I've showed in past videos. Here it is. Russia shares a border with North Korea right there in China. And North Korea is saying Russia is our neighbors. We share same border and traditional relations of friendship. We have a long history and friendly cooperative relations between the two countries and are developing day by day. So, that's not saying anything big and breaking, but that's just showing you a little snapshot. North Korea is talking real friendly about Russia and how great their alliance is and how it's growing day by day. So if you don't know, now you know. There's just a snapshot into the sanctions violations and them working with oil and coal and breaking the sanctions and trying to stand up in the UN and hold back any more sanctions on North Korea, fighting for North Korea, sending bomber planes down to South Korea, looking like they're preparing for a long-range bomber mission, practicing to defend North Korea, attack South Korea. And North Korea's news is even saying we got a long traditional relationship. We're good friends with Russia. So if you don't know, there's another little snapshot. Here's a report. This guy, North Korea Real Time, he covers nothing but North Korea, and his stuff's great too. He's found another report, and somebody's coming out of Korea Times, is a news agency, reporting that North Korea's denuclearization becomes less likely. Every day it's coming out more and more. And if you haven't got the picture by now, they ain't giving up them nukes. And all the professionals with checks beside their names, they all know it too. It's just a matter of time before either we just give up on the talks and walk away, or admit that we've lost this negotiation. And at some point, I'm telling you, it's going to turn into a war. We're going to hit them. You're going to see it. You can doubt me if you want. But that is one thing that I'm going to put my word on, that I can't prove or show you otherwise. But it's dreams I've had and many others have had too. What's this? This guy's Global Military. Great stuff. You're on Twitter, follow him. If you ain't on Twitter, get on Twitter and follow him. Follow these people and keep up with it. He's breaking. Hamas has recently released a statement. It's a blunt threat to the IDF, which is Israeli's military forces. IDF, Israeli Defense Forces. Israel bears full responsibility of today's attacks and will pay a high price for the blood on our own. So they're threatening Israel, saying they're going to get them back. This is, I'm not sure how to pronounce it right, but it looks like Arutz Shiva or Shiva, and they're an Israeli news agency, and they've got great stuff. One of my new favorite Israel sources. They're saying Israeli Defense Force, Israeli's military forces come under mortar fire from Gaza Strip. So it wasn't a balloon. They shot mortars, they shelled over into Israel, and then Israel flew over and hit him, and that's why that guy got injured or killed. So that's what's happening today, 7 hours ago, so earlier this morning. Here's another report on it. IDF, because they shot that mortar, IDF returned and they opened fire on Hamas, which is the little terrorist there. He's a Hamas member hanging out in Gaza. And after mortars landed in Israel, they returned fire on them and one guy died. Here's another report on what Putin said today. Putin goes off script and slams the U.S. forces for undermining Russian-American relations. I read a bit of this, and I'll read a bit of it to you. It's pretty interesting, man. This is breaking today. You'll probably hear more and more talks about this, but it's just come out. I'm going to read the title again. Russian President Vladimir Putin went off script while addressing a meeting of ambassadors and permanent representatives of the Russian Federation, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Moscow on Thursday. What's today? Today. Severely criticizing forces of the United States. Trashing them hard. Seeking to undermine Russian-American relations at their own expense. So he's saying our politics is really costing our relations with Russia, and it's very bad. So he's saying we're letting our politics get in the way of international peace, and it's going to cause more conflicts. All this political left and right stuff is making things worse, is what he's saying. He said, quote, going off script and speaking personally, I'd like to say a few words, the Russian president said. We see that there are forces in the U.S. which are prepared at the drop of a hat to sacrifice Russian and American relations for the sake of the internal political ambitions in America. So again, he's saying lefties and righties are fighting at the cost of a potential conflict with Russia. Is it really worth it? This is what he said in his own words, going off the script, putting the paper down for a second and saying what he really wanted to say. They are prepared to sacrifice the interests of their own businesses and interests of their allies in Europe and the Middle East, as well as their own national security. So he's saying what? You're risking your own safety in America by playing these political games and using Russia to one up on the political left versus right. It's going to cost you an international conflict. It's going to cost you your national security. These people are neither despicable or pathetic, he said. And there's an ad, and it always does that on this website. He said, referring to the famous Russian satirist. So it's this famous words that they've got in Russia. He said, it's the opposite. They are quite powerful and strong. It's hard to see that, like I said, because the ad's over it. Here, let me see if I can highlight it so maybe you could see it a little bit better through the ad there. Hopefully you can see that. He said they're not despicable or pathetic. They are quite powerful and strong, and they can peddle this information. Sorry for my expression. Various hard to swallow stories to millions of people. So he's saying that the media is coming out making up accusations against Russia. He's saying, it's false information. Whether it is, whether it ain't, that's not my point. My point is the same point he's making. Tensions with Russia are getting worse, whether they're doing this stuff or not. And we're on the verge of a international conflict, World War III with Russia. The Big Bear, Daniel 7, I believe. It's in Daniel. During his speech, Putin also stressed that the need of developed relations with the European Union despite current political tensions. He also said that the countries looking to try and include Ukraine and Georgia in the NATO sphere of influence should think of the possible consequences of that irresponsible policy, because Russia would respond to any kind of aggressive steps that directly threaten Russia. So you trying to get Ukraine and Georgia as part of the European Union and the NATO alliance. You're threatening his security with his nation, and that's going to cause problems. So there's you another article talking about what's going on today. And I'm sure I don't watch Fox and CNN. I don't watch TV. I got more than I need right here. I struggle to keep up with this, but I'm sure this will be all the talk on TV and CNN and Fox, and the political left and right politics will be tearing this up. More excuse to raise tension some more with Russia. What does this matter to you as a Christian? As an American, you should already know. As a Christian, this is the beginning of tribulation. Jesus said there'd be wars and rumors of wars. That's where we're at right now. He's talking trash. They're talking trash. They're all talking trash. Big rumors of war, big tensions. I mean, technically you could say them moving into Ukraine right there and starting to take up territory in Ukraine could potentially already be a war. Depends on how you look at it. You decide for yourself. And then he said that another sign after that would be the beginning of sorrows. But war, nation against nation and kingdom against kingdom, World War III would be the beginning of the tribulation. So here we are. That's why it's important to you as a Christian that you should take this stuff seriously, to know that the tribulation's about to start. Are you faithful? Are you going to be left behind in this war zone that's going to encompass the entire world? Are you going to be found faithful and spared? Either way, you want to be found faithful so you can be protected, right? This is how close the tribulation is. This is how close it is to Jesus returning. Very serious. Let's move on and see what else we got. This is an Arab source, and they're covering that same Syrian offensive. I like to call it the Iranian offensive, because Iran's running the ground game and Russia's running the air force for them. Syria's barely got anybody out there to defend themselves anymore. They haven't had for a long time. And this is all that's left of their little offensive. And I showed you the gift from that earlier. So like I said, it's not just me following that. Lots of other people are following that. Israel's concerned about it. They're concerned about Hezbollah and Iran moving up on their border. All the Arabs are loving it. Let's see what else we got. This is a guy talking about the Gaza Strip. And Hamas and Gaza and Israel has done drills recently, and they said the drills were preparation for a potential invasion into the Gaza Strip. You decide how you feel about that. Here's a report, not from lefties or righties out of America, but from China. What's China saying? Russia and China want to delay the U.S. push to halt the transaction of petroleum oil to North Korea. So China's worried about it. They're worried about it in Israel. They're worried about it all over the world. They're reporting today that Russia and China is trying to stall us from completely blockading North Korea. And North Korea said if we did that, that'd be an act of war. They've said that in the past. You can look it up for yourself. They said if we put a complete blockade on them, that it would be an act of war, and they'd consider that a declaration of war. We want to go ahead and cut off all oil now, which they said would be an act of war. And Russia's China is saying, no, we need to stall that. You don't need to do that. So you decide for yourself whether that's important to you. Here's the report, that live map. There's a red one and a blue one on Twitter. I suggest follow both of them. The red one's going to follow the Middle East, and you can see the blue one's going to follow, it seems like, everything else. And they broke last night, I believe it was, as I was going to sleep. The UK police have identified the perpetrators of a Novichok, and forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that. You know what it is, that poison that they keep accusing Russia of. They've come out and said that they've blamed another Russian for it. Time and time again, whether you believe that it's staged to accuse Russia or Russia's actually doing it, you decide for yourself. My point is what? They're blaming Russia, and it's another sign that they want to escalate tensions. They want a war. They want a conflict with Russia, and they're stating that they've come out and found on cameras. They've got camera evidence, street cameras or whatever, that this recent Novichok attack, this recent poison attack on citizens in UK was from Russians again, blaming the Russians. World War III, folks. Like I said, you want to follow that blue one. And it's covering the same stuff over here. Here, I'll close it and just show you. It says Joint Force Operation Press Center yesterday. Russian forces opened fire 17 times. So is this just wars and rumors of wars? The Russians are opening up fire on the Ukrainian border here in Ukraine with the territory that they've taken in Donbass in Ukraine. And like I said, you can come to my Twitter feed. If you don't know where this map is yet, you could follow their source, click on it, follow them on Twitter. They'll send notifications to your phone, tablet, computer, whatever. Click on this little link right here, bang. It's going to open you up to the map, to the website where the map's at. It's going to immediately show you this exact report. And you got to forgive these crazy ads they put over here. And look, they're talking about Russia opening up fire. Russia's maintaining this territory, and they're opening up fire all along the border where they're holding this territory. Are they looking to take some more territory? Man, it looks like an offensive to me. Russia's opening up fire 17 times along the border in Ukraine. Is it World War III yet? Is this nation against nation yet? They've got Crimea. They're saying if you play around with Ukraine or Georgia, it's going to be World War III. It's going to escalate tensions. I just read it to you. They're opening up fire 17 times just yesterday. Old guys are saying that the reason they really want this area is not only is it because it's on the border of Russia, and they don't want you moving in closer to their border, but Russia wants access to the ocean. Here comes my other son, if he gets into the camera or not. They want access and seaports to the ocean, and this opens up and they can go through here and get out and get onto the ocean. It's the Mediterranean. And they've got seaports over in here with Syria. They say that's the whole reason they've been so nice to Syria, so they can get seaport access out there. Big stuff going on, guys. Big stuff. Daniel's bear's on the move. He's standing up on those back legs. He's about to devour much flesh. I think you should take it seriously. I think you should warn your friends. If you're a Christian, I think you should be warning people and letting them know. If you've had Russian dreams, I think you needed to check into this stuff. North Korea news. UN data shows China and Russia continued oil product exports to North Korea throughout the spring and the summer. So they had sanctions, and long story short, what are they saying? China and Russia hasn't stopped giving any, my son's playing around, any oil to Russia and China. They've been violating the sanctions, and this is just a report proving that. And there's tons of reports on that. Showing you what? You play around with North Korea, you're playing around with Russia and China. So if Ukraine and Georgia isn't serious enough, and Putin says it's very serious, North Korea is another hot point where you might get into it, World War III, with Russia and China. And I'm telling you, it's going to be the spark. That's the main reason I haven't kept up with Ukraine, because God hasn't showed me anything to do with Ukraine, even though it's a place in a snapshot where I can show you that things are serious. God's pointed me out to North Korea and Israel. Those are the two things that he's had me cover and watch and specifically told me to keep up with. China's special forces units are getting ready for war, and that's probably having to do with Taiwan. You could come find this and read it for yourself. There's so much stuff, so much going on that I haven't even read that myself. Scroll through a little bit more of this. I'm sure I've been talking for a while. My kid's hanging around behind me, so he's not going to give me too much time here. China doubles oil shipments to North Korea after Kim's visit. So what good are the sanctions? What good is the pressure, supposed maximum pressure we're putting on North Korea, if the sanctions aren't even being upheld? You're not going to put enough pressure on North Korea to get them to give up anything if they're not even upholding the sanctions. What pressure? There's no pressure. They're violating your sanctions. Russia and China's violating your sanctions. What you going to do about it? Cause World War III or walk away? You're going to see. South Korea is holding a vessel. So South Korea's got a ship that comes from North Korea, and they're not letting it go because they found them violating sanctions. I'm sure North Korea's not happy about it. This is the big picture in small snapshots. You put these puzzle pieces together in your mind, and what do you see? I see tensions. I see World War III on the verge. I see wars and rumors of wars about to break. Unannounced Russian military exercises in Armenia have panicked the locals and reopened a sensitive question of the Russian-Armenian defense ties. So Armenia is right here. They've got bases out here in Armenia, and it wasn't a big story all in itself, but it's another small snapshot for you to put a puzzle piece together. They just come out today, and he's talking about you better not play with Georgia and Ukraine. That's my territory. And they've run in surprise drills, didn't notify anybody out here in Armenia. And they're showing what? They're showing, they're on the verge of World War III. They're practicing and they're ready for it. It's coming, folks. It's coming. I hope some of this stuff and some of this information sparks your interest. mainstream Christians, even if you don't care about North Korea, you say, oh, that's not in the Bible. Russia is. John Hagee says it is. Billy Graham says it is. You take it serious when they talk about it, and I'm showing you in the news. There it is. Daniel says there's a bear. The Korea Herald. Here's you another Korean source that you should get on here and follow. And they're saying what? North Korean leaders are calling for overseas mission chiefs to Pyongyang, which is the capital of North Korea. So this is on here a couple of times. And North Korea, Kim Jong-un's got lots of these little leaders out there, like ambassadors all out in the world, to try to, make negotiations and work out situations with other countries. And they're supposed to always be out there as a liaison to other places. And surprise, he's called a mission. He wants every single one of his boys all over the world to come home, and he wants to have a surprise meeting. What's it about? It's surprise. We don't know. It's going to be secret in Pyongyang, which would be the capital of North Korea, like Washington, D.C. is the capital of the U.S., for anybody who don't know. Surprise meeting. He's calling all his boys home. It's very interesting. Just another snapshot. Something's going on, guys. Gaza. What's this? Russian ambassador to Iran. Now, talking about Iran, you're talking about Israel. Moscow was concerned by a possible military escalation between Iran and Israel. Moscow's worried about Iran-Israel war. Russia's involved in it. Iran's moving in, and they want to attack Israel. Moscow's worried about it, and they're saying they're doing everything to try to keep Iran and Israel from having a war. But at the end of the day, they're not sending them home. No matter what you hear, no matter what they say, they continue to say that, I'll scroll on down there, that Assad's allowed Iranian forces to come into Syria to support him, and Russia said as long as there's terrorists to fight and there's a battle going on, that they support Assad having those Iranian forces in there, and they're not for them going home until all the terrorists are eliminated and the threat's gone and the war's over. And now they're moving in on the Golan Heights down there. So Russia's taking the Iran war with Israel seriously. Are you? Russia is. There's you an example of it. This guy's got a check verified. He's reporting out of Israel information about a Russian ambassador to Iran's taking the Iran-Israel war seriously. You should too. Here's the information. I got a feed going. I got one going for North Korea, and I got one going for Israel, and you can just click that and it'll open up a thread, like a string of all information that I've got linked together. Here, I'll open it up for you. And I've took statements out of this article. North Korea warns Japan over colonial past with after IAEA, which is like a nuclear inspection agency or something. You can open it up, read it for yourself. You tell me what it is. That's what it is. And basically what it is, Japan has given money to this nuclear inspection agency, and they're saying Tokyo is also working on plans to conduct a compulsory inspection, meaning whether you like it or not, we're going to come and inspect what? Of North Korea and their suspected nuclear facilities. So if you don't already know, North Korea is saying that they've got, or our U.S. intelligence agency is reporting that North Korea's got undeclared nuclear facilities. Just recently, Pompeo went and sat down in North Korea, not with Kim Jong-un because he wouldn't come out and talk, but one of his head underlings come out, and they said that Pompeo asked about these nuclear facilities that are undisclosed, secret. And the guy says that, I don't know what you're talking about. So that means what? They're going to keep these nuclear facilities secret. So even if we start some type of denuclearization process, they're going to keep these nuclear facilities secret. For now, they don't even plan on telling you about it. We've got satellite pictures of it. We know it's there. We know it's a nuclear facility, and North Korea is saying we don't know what you're talking about. We're not gonna disclose that. We're not giving that up, is what they're saying. And Japan doesn't like that. Let me pull up a picture real fast. Is it this one? Yeah. Japan's right here, and they're very concerned about North Korea's secret nuclear facilities. And they said, when this inspection process begins, if it begins, and they start going in there and checking it, that they want to be a part of the inspection process, and they're going to come in there and they're going to inspect those secret facilities. Compulsory inspection, whether you like it or not. And North Korea is mad about it, boys. They did not like that. And they're talking junk, and North Korea is warning Japan, talking about, oh, you did this, you did that. And at the end of the day, what they mad about? They mad because Japan said they're going to come in there and check them secret facilities. What you going to do about it? Tensions with North Korea, guys. Even if we want to make things work out and we want to let them have this, Japan don't want to let them have it, and they want to come in there and check them out. There's another report on Kim Jong-un calling in all of his envoy, ambassador, North Korean ambassadors for that secret meeting. This is a report that shows that North Korea has coal mines, and China's got ships. They're picking up North Korea's coal and shipping it over here, and I don't know how to say this, a Russian place. They're shipping it to Russia, Kolmysk, and they're dropping the coal off to Russia, and then Russia's sending it down to South Korea. And what's the point of that? They're violating sanctions. And what maximum pressure? What pressure are you putting on them for them to give up their nukes when they're violating the sanctions? There ain't no pressure. Russia and China are risking the situation, violating the sanctions with North Korea. This is more reports talking about, and this is Yonhap. This is a verified source out of South Korea. CNN, Fox, and the whole world takes them as a serious verified source, legitimate source, and they're talking about the same thing. They're talking about, that sanctions violations. A defector, a guy that ran out of North Korea, says straight up, North Korea will never give up these nukes. And it's apparent, it's obvious if you're keeping up with any information, they're not. Secret uranium sites. And come check these stories out. It just jumped on me. Come check these stories out and read this stuff. This isn't leftist bashing Trump. This isn't, righties pretending like everything's right. This is Straits Times. This is another Asian reporting agency. And these guys all out here in Asia, they got the most at stake. They're concerned about it. They're taking it seriously. Japan ain't playing around with talks going good. They know there's secret facilities, and they want to get in there and inspect them for themselves so that they can ensure their own safety. So you keep listening to what the political people are saying, but Japan's not playing politics. They're worried about their safety. And this report's talking about that same thing. North Korea, even if the process of denuclearization starts, they know that there's secret facilities, and it's going to be an issue whether North Korea is even going to declare these, and whether they're going to continue to try to hide these facilities and keep them all to themselves. Tons of information, man. Lots of crazy stuff going on all over the place. I'm going to keep scrolling to see if there's anything else I want to show you. This is more information about him calling all those ambassadors in for a meeting. Wonder what the meeting's about. Well, I guess we'll find out. Maybe. This is a different topic, but it's the same area. China is beginning large-scale exercises. Right now, they're running exercises, and they're flexing the muscle, and they're saying they're targeting Taiwan, which we're allied with Taiwan and supporting them more and more. And they're saying there's a potential war on the verge with China and Taiwan. This is news about Israel running drills, and they say that, and Israel's flat out said that these drills are practiced for an invasion in Gaza. And I got a little bit of thread going on that. Here's another article. I'd repeat it and show you multiple places, so you say it's not just that one crazy article or that one crazy dude post on YouTube. It's lots of different articles, lots of different agencies reporting this, and they're saying what? The Israeli army is told to prepare for a large-scale invasion of Gaza. Military wants more pressure put on Gaza. So they're talking about a potential Israel-Gaza war down south. Here's your Bible verse that I haven't seen many people talk about, and I felt like it was relevant. Zephaniah chapter 2 verse 4 says, "For Gaza shall be forsaken, and Ashkelon," and that's a place in Israel, is still called, or Ashkelon. I'm sorry, not Ashkelon. You got to forgive my interpretation of the words or pronunciation of the language. But Ashkelon in the Bible was Ashkelon then, and if you go and look up modern day city today, is still called Ashkelon. Ashdod is still Ashdod today. Now Ekron is an ancient place right next to Ashdod, and it's not called Ekron today, so they don't call it that anymore. But these two places still go by the ancient name, and Gaza City's right there. And what's the breaking news on that? They're saying they're preparing for a large-scale invasion. Israel is practicing to invade Gaza City. And what's God say about that in his word in our Bible today? Zephaniah has a prophecy that at some point Gaza will be forsaken. I personally feel like that might mean that they have this back and forth going on, and tensions have been really high in the past few days. If you've been keeping up with it, if you ain't, read through some of that stuff on the feed, and check it out for yourself. It looks to me like he's saying that Gaza's going to get destroyed. They're preparing for an invasion, and they'll probably level Gaza City. Ashkelon's going to get hit. That's on Israel's side. Ashdod is going to get hit. Praise God, Israel set up, and then all their people have sirens. They hear that siren, and they run down to the basement and bunkers, and they're probably fairly safe to the small-scale rockets these boys shoot off. So most of the Israelis will probably be all right during this. And if it got serious enough, they probably hit the cars and leave town for a while. And maybe their infrastructure and buildings will be hit and destroyed. But it's talking about an escalation and a conflict that's going to be one that they have yet to have with Gaza. They're talking about a big war. And so I think that's relevant to the news that's breaking right now. Let's see what else I got here. That's another give from the other day. More news about Iran's working a new nuclear centrifuge. Nukes. They want to prepare for more nukes. And some older news. They said Russia is opening up the facility where that Novichok poison is made. They're reopening it. You're going to blame them for it? They said, well, we might as well open it up and make some of it. There's news about they want to officially consider the Golan Heights Israel. I'm sure Israel's going to defend it regardless of whether you say it's official or not. And a little bit older news, but scroll through here if you hadn't seen some of this stuff and check it out. That's about all of the stuff I'm going to cover today. I hope some of that sparked your interest. I hope you found some of that interesting. There's lots of stuff going on. This whole entire area is on fire, man. With Ukraine up here, Russia, 17 times they fired just the other day in Ukraine. They're saying Putin's come out saying you better not play around in Ukraine and Georgia. It's going to cause more tensions. You know, Syria and Israel and Iran, it's on fire down there. Lots of stuff going on. I hope you found some of this interesting and encouraging. You know, this is fearful things. Pray for Israel. Pray for peace and safety. But at the end of the day, God's will is going to be fulfilled. He's prophesied these things to come to pass, and they will pass. We can't hold back God's word. It's going to be fulfilled. So look at these things as signs of Jesus coming, and warn your friends, and be encouraged. God bless you in Jesus' holy name. Amen.